Hello, thank you for joining me. Today we are continuing on our painting of the teddy bear and the rose that we began last week. This is a 4-part series, and today we will be painting the teddy bear itself. So let's start off as we always do by mixing our lights and shadows that we are going to use on the teddy bear. And for the teddy bear lights, we're going to start with some Naples yellow. Then we'll bring down a little bit of English red. And to this we're going to add some ultramarine blue, which takes this towards a tan value, or tan hue. I'm going to pull down more because I'm going to need to use a bit more. I did not put any paper towels start. It's good to have all these items right at hand so that you don't have far to go when you find you need something new or that you forgot. Clean my knife off before I grab into that red again. Alright, I'm just going to hold on to that. So we're going to grab a little more English red. And English red's very, very strong tinting strength. So it doesn't take much at all. You'll see just how red this mixture becomes. And so we have a very red, currently, appearance. Nice earth tone red. We're going to pull down some of this ultramarine, or the blue. And just take a little bit of the blue as well. It's also pretty strong tinting strength. You'll see this kind of takes us a little bit more towards a gray tan. And really counters that red quite directly. Much more. Don't want to go too much blue, or you do end up with more of a gray. And we are looking for a warm brown here. Check this against my reference and see whether I'm actually a little low in value right now. A little bit too cool, so I'm going to add a little more Naples yellow and a little bit of Chev yellow to give it a little more pop, a little more color. Bring down a little yellow, as well as provide a value lightening effect. You see we're getting a much warmer, lighter brown that we're going to use for the lightest regions of the bear. Get that mixed in good. We don't want streaks of yellow appearing in there without so we got a nice tan to work with here. think that's going to work fairly well. Playing against the darker browns that are in the lights as well. So we're going to pull that up into a pile just so it doesn't dry as much on us while we're mixing other colors and painting. And we're going to clean the knife off. Pick up a little more Naples yellow here. Have the camera zoomed in a bit today because I wanted you to get a good picture, see all the lines, reference lines that are down. Unfortunately, it means a close-up of my mug, so. Alright, so starting the next light off, very similar to the first, with some Naples yellow. We're going to kind of repeat the process, but we're going to add in some of the burnt umber. And we'll start with just a touch of the English red and the burnt umber, and we'll see where that brings us. English red's such a amazing paint. It can be used to tint so many things. It's a nice earth grounded value or grounded hue. It just adds a little bit of life to everything. But it is so strong. What I'm going for right now is the darker of the browns and the light, and this is too much tan. I'm going to bring in a little bit more umber. Got to make sure that we stay above the values we use for the shadows on the heart, or it'll not make as much sense. So, so right now we're still okay, and I can go closer to the shadow values yet. I'll use a little more burnt umber in here. I'm probably going to pick up a little bit of this blue as well and add in. It'll help bring the value down. And add a little more color in. I want to keep the lights colorful, chromatic, and even little subtleties really can help a lot with your finished result. And so you can see we're getting a little less red, a little more brown. And yet we're still a bit lighter than the shadow that we used on the heart. So we're going to have to... It's not bad. It's kind of a mid-tone. We are going to take this and take some of it down a little bit further. I'm going to bring a little bit over to the side here. Every once in a while you do have a light that is a bit darker than a shadow. As long as you have enough range to represent the shadow on the object itself. So that there's a clear distinction between what's light and what's shadow. Yeah, I like that much better. Alright, so we have our lights, our lightest, kind of a mid-green, and our darkest light for the bear. And next we will mix some shadows. And to be honest, the light contrasts on this image are pretty low light, so the shadows are very dark. And I may end up using pretty close to a straight burnt umber here, and even darken that. So we don't have a huge range in our shadow values. It's either in the light or it's shadowed. I'm actually going to bring down some more burnt umber. We don't have a lot of the bear in shadow. His leg here, a bit of his leg here, just under the pillow, a little bit right along his ear, and then this side of his face. So we don't need a lot of paint. But I'm going to use 2 values for shadows. Bring some of the burnt umber. I'm going to add in some black and go a little bit darker yet. I don't want to go straight black. I want to be a little step above my absolute black, just to give me some room for adjustments and nuance. So you see we've got burnt umber and black together. And the shadows don't really need to have a whole lot of color. They're desaturated. They don't have to be vibrant. They do need to hold a space. Hey, welcome from Vietnam. Thanks for watching. Hope you find this useful. Alright, so we have a pretty reasonable set of values and hues. So let's start painting. I'm going to start with a number 6 brush like I generally do. It's a number 6 filbert. I'm going to start with my darkest shadows. And just start right along this heart here. It'll clean up the edge. Around the bottom of his foot here. And the bear's fuzzy and the shadows are very close in value. That the edge here isn't going to be real sharp and clean because you got flyaway fur. But it is all shadow here, but this is the tabletop shadow versus the bear's shadow. Pick up a little more of that. And I'm just going to kind of lay in a little bit of roughness around the edge of that. And we have the same thing going on this side, the shadow. A little bit of leg yet here, I think. And this entire leg from here, it's really only his foot that you can actually see in the light. So we will make sure we put all this in the shadow. And I know a lot of people like to stand out off of their painting, use the full length of the brush to give themselves some distance. And I have practiced that occasionally. I don't have the control working at those distances. So you'll see I tend to crouch up on that ferrule quite a lot. And this just comes around. So we're finally at the middle of the week. Halfway on our journey to the weekend. Hopefully your weekends are something worth looking forward to. I know mine are. It's usually when we do fun things with my family and when I don't have to report to work. Because as much as I would like to be a full-time artist, I'm not there yet. So that's why we're here practicing. Practice, practice, practice. And this side of his foot's also in shadow. It looks like kind of comes out a little bit and then goes back in. Being able to do what you love and kind of work for yourself, I think that's about everybody's dream. I don't imagine most people ever actually achieve that. I enjoy what I do well enough, and it does pay the bills, so that's always a big plus. Alright, now we'll grab what we've got going on in his face. We've got a cast shadow right across his ear from his head, so this one's going to stay pretty firm edges. And then here we've got a bit of a form shadow catching the bottom corner of his ear. His eye here is lost in shadow. Shadow shape actually kind of pulls a little bit at an angle. And part of his nose here with the form shadow. It sticks out in front of the rest of them, but turns away from the light. I would contend that in here we switch from shadow to light. So I'm going to play on the shadow portion here. Pick up a little more paint. Got a form shadow on this side. What's interesting about teddy bears and animals, stuffed animals, is the texturing. Getting that fur to show as fur. Got a little bit of a shadow up in here around his ear. So the first thing is to make sure your values in that area, regional values, match, and then you make sure you put in indications of bits of fur. Alright, stepping back. I'm going to use the lighter of the two shadow values. He's got a shadow on the bottom side of his hand. But it's not as dark as the other shadows, and it's not very pronounced, so I'll leave that in there like so. There's actually a bit of light we're going to have to put in here. A bit of the bear who's sticking out in the light. I'm going to take this a little bit lighter value. I'm going to go along the edges of the form shadows. And just take it a step lighter. And I'm tapping so that we end up with uneven shapes that represent the fur breaking it up rather than a complete smooth gradient. And he's got some breakup on his snout. And even in here, his nose is a bit in shadow right here. Got this form shadow, make sure we touch a little bit of the lighter value there, and around the edges of his ears. You can kind of see, I think, on the camera now. Gives a little more of a fuzzy appearance. I don't have it real fuzzy here. Alright. So you can see he's starting to hold his space now. You can get the shape of the bear. Get more of a feel of what's going on here. I'm going to take this brush and set it down. Let's use a separate new brush. Also a number 6. Filbert. Grab one that's got a nicer edge on it than what I first picked up here. Check this the other way. Alright, so we're going to pick up some of our darkest lights. I'm going to lay this in. I'm going to kind of tap and make it rough. See, it's darker along in here. And these darker values, darker lights almost connect right in here. Use some of it in here. And this foot, kind of see that it works its way over this way. Pick up some more paint. Hopefully you're able to use these references yourself and paint along at times and get a nice result. These references here are ones I photograph, the ones I share on this YouTube channel, so that I know there's no copyright and ownership issues. I offer them here free to use. This along the shadow. Form shadows. There's just some kind of little bit of shapes down in here. And you'll see this value will come up a little bit as it blends in with some of the other lighter values I'm going to be using. Ear. Let's get some this here's a little bit darker than what's up on his face. Now, by going week to week, one of the things I didn't do by using a palette like this, I'm not really able to preserve my palette from week to week. So I don't have the colors mixed here anymore. So I would be very careful around the edges because I can't, without, I either have to remix value, remix those colors, or just be very careful and not have a need to remix the colors. So I'm going to err on the side of not needing to remix the colors by treading very carefully around this pillow. Let's see here, am I missing anything? That's all in shadow. Alright, we're going to step up to our next light value. Actually, I need to go along this edge and his ear yet before I switch values. Because this whole side of his face is turned towards shadow. Cast shadow here. Along his ear, which actually is fairly dark as it is itself. It only catches a lot of light up in this top edge and a little bit right along this edge, this surface, this plane. Make sure we... Alright, so we're going to step up in our value. We'll have to come back and correct a few things, I'm sure. But we're going into our medium light value. And we're going to go along. Not seeing a huge difference in value on the canvas here until we get the lighter values in. We're going to be laying some of the lighter value right on top of this, the lightest value, and then we'll add in some highlights that don't currently have a mixed hue for. Put a couple of these in, piece fuzzy. I'm actually going to pull some of this lighter value and make a mid-tone in here. And it's basically just mixing with what's already on the brush. You see it's a bit lighter than this, a bit darker than that. We're going to lay this in here. I may have to bring that up even further. I'll have to look when I get closer to having more of the values in place. I'm going to go back into the really stepped up in value. So it's got to stand out from the back, that this is in front of the face. That's behind. This snout sticks out here. And here we've got let's see here. I think we still need to use this mid-tone value in here. And around his foot as we get lighter and lighter. I'm going a little bit even lighter still. And we're going to start. Should we finish filling in all the dots of white that are showing through? And hopefully the texture's coming across in the camera pretty well. Lightest is up here. Got some fuzzies. The touch of the lights down in here. There's a little bit of light right around his eye, his eyebrow. Even along this there's going to be some fuzz. Because he's a fuzzy bear, he's got fur. So gonna have some random indications sticking out. So for those of you watching, are you paint yourselves, and have you been painting for very long? If so, let me know in the comments. I always love to talk to other painters and see their work. If you're enjoying these painting sessions, be sure to click like to let YouTube know that this is enjoyable content. They'll promote it to more people, so it'll be shared more broadly with the world. And there's a couple of little pieces that I haven't done yet. Got his nose hanging out there. I haven't decided exactly. It's pretty close to this one mid value, but it's just a tad lighter. So I think I'm going to have to put in some shadow around that to make it stand out more once I drop the nose in. Trying to give a little bit of the movement to the fur. Lay it in here because I do really want it to appear to be fur. It looks like I'll probably need to go one step lighter in value yet, just with a smaller brush to lay in the bits of hair catching the most amount of light. But before we go to that, I'm going to go ahead and lay the nose in, and I'm going to add some shadow around the nose to really send that separated out from the rest of the Let's go back to my shadow brush. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of paint here. I'm going to go around that ridge of the recess where his nose sits in. This will separate the nose off from the fur around it, from the rest of his snout. And just light strokes out so that it looks furry. Very gently. With the light brush, I'm going to tap the edges. Some of these are catching a little bit of light out here. Raise that up just a tad more. This needs fuzzed, because this is all a fuzzy edge. I'm looking at. Now, there's a pretty light highlight sitting back there around his eye. And I'm going to use the number 2 brush, number 2 filbert. I'm going to use my shadow value. It's not in the shadow, but it is exceptionally dark. Just lay a little bit of that hard surface for his eye. There's a reflection coming out, or a highlight coming out of there that we know is his eye. So I'll make sure I leave that white there. I'm going to put some white in so that we can actually tell that that's his eye sitting back in there. Just a little number 1. I'm going to taint it just a little bit with a tan. I don't want it to be completely white. It'll jump too much off the rest of the scene. So his eyes shining through. Now, another number 2 brush. It's going to be for the lights. I'm going to bring down some white right beside my other mixture here. I'm going to bring this like a very light tan. This is going to be my highlights in the fur itself. And you want it to be a reasonable jump in value from what you have going on as your lights. And clean off a little bit of this on the brush. I don't want a ton on the brush. Makes it a little more difficult to control. And here we're just going to lay in some various bits of light fur. Just kind of tap them on there. Trying to keep a bit of the shape of the direction that the fur is showing at that point. There's like a little ring down here. Kind of follows down. There's like a little edge. It's kind of catching a little extra light here. And get some curls in here. There's actually a little bit of catching here, so make sure we don't get that in the shadow itself. I'm going to have to lightly go over this a little bit to blend, kind of marry those edges together a little bit more. Right now it just appears to be laid on top, and it's not a look we really want to keep, but I did want to better represent these direction of the fur by putting these highlights in. And as you paint, you'll start picking up what's already there. And so you'll have to go back and get some, clean your brush off, pick up some of the value we really want to work with here. He's got some right along here, his eyes. His snout is catching a little more light than his face around him. What I'm doing is switching back to my lights brush. This here is too hard of an edge, it needs to be fuzzed. As his snout's turning away from the light. Doesn't look like fur right now, and so I'm just cleaning that up a little bit. There's some highlights right on this side of his nose. Kind of show the fur coming out of the... And on the edges of his ears, he's definitely got some extra light catching up in here. A little bit up on his head. A little touch out there in his ear actually. On the far side, not much. A little bit up on the top of his head here, sticking up. A couple pieces out in here, getting a little bit of light, a little bit of light here. A little bit of extra light hitting his shoulder here, kind of on the edges of his arm. Hopefully these comments are coming through on the microphone, and I'm not just talking to myself. A little extra light catching here. There's a little bit right up in here. And right now these just look like they're laying on the surface. They will until I come through with a... I'm just going to use a number 10. Up my mid-range value and lightly brush over these. And I'm going to use that number 1 brush, pick up some of this. He's got a loose thread. That's what this line hanging out here is. He's got a little loose thread that I'm going to lay in. It's really going to make it kind of disappear until we fill in the background. But all right, so let's take that number 10 brush I was talking about earlier. This one can be a little bit fuzzy. It's not. I'm going to pick up a little bit of paint just so it's not a wet or dry brush. If it's a dry brush, it won't. It'll lift a bit of the paint off, and that's not really what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm just going to really lightly kind of touch over these highlights, just kind of very lightly, barely touching the canvas or the surface. It's not really canvas. This is a hardboard panel that I gessoed myself. Trying to keep the direction of the strokes the same. That's what you use for the highlights. And we're actually it's gonna diminish them a little bit. But cause them to belong to the bear. Can't exactly see where they start and end, just that they're there. And what this does is softens the edges a little bit around them, brings the value down a little bit because they're taking up a pretty big, it reduces the space that's quite so bright. While preserving the direction of the fur. It's these little subtleties that when I do the whole piece in a hour-and-a-half time frame, you don't have time to go back and do this. And why I started a set of multi-day broken apart painting sessions. Clean it off a little bit. So what you want left is just indications. You don't really want, well, at least that's what I want. What you want in your painting is up to you. Some people really like the non-blended, just lay the shadows in right up against the It's a style preference. the directions of your strokes, brush strokes, matters a lot. Kind of gives movement to the light itself. And it's the light that you're drawing, after all, that you're representing on these paintings. Here. And this is the time-consuming part, actually. All this little focus on the details. What direction the fur is going, how much of a highlight is standing out. You can see this needs blended here. Don't know if it's shown up in this video or not. I've added I don't know, about 15 more minutes or so of soundtracks, so hopefully it's not hitting the same music as frequently. I am noticing that this one's one that has appeared in previous videos, this current track. But hopefully to make the sound a little less monotonous. The extra variety in the tracks will do that for us. These ones are still overrepresented down here. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this session. Hope your painting's making great progress. Let's tone down just a little bit in here. Looking at the stream views, see what the camera's actually picking up. It gives me a view of if I were standing back there. So, standing back a little further from my painting. So you'll see me coming in and doing a little more touch-ups here and there. I think it captures the... I'm going to do this with the shadow brush here. One highlight touches out into the shadow a bit much. The cast shadow, so it needs to be a little bit more stark. There. Step back a minute and look here. I think it's not... it does well for what it is, representing this bear. and the fuzziness. And you could go even further and get a smaller brush and lay in even more direct details. And I've seen people do that. They'll go and they'll use a two-haired brush and they'll just make every individual stroke, and the result is actually, that much better. But we're limiting ourselves to, the hour and a half, and we're at an hour and 10 minutes as it is, and 20 minutes. And I think this does a pretty good job of representing the bear, and that he's fuzzy. That we don't really need to go to that level of detail. It's a very dark background. So I'll put a link to the description. It's in my feed, but I'll put a link to the description of part 1 so that if you're just joining into part 2, you can see how the heart pillow itself was painted in. And next Wednesday we'll be doing part 3, where we'll be painting in the rose. And on our 4th week, we'll be putting in the background and the tabletop. Since the background's all just nearly solid black, in this case it might even be a solid black. It's pretty dark. I'll probably bring it up a half step from black, but it's dark. The rose really is going to need some time to get that subtlety so you can get the form. So while it's one of the smaller areas of the painting, it'll need that time. Let's see here. Snout separate from the face. That's good. This tends to run together here. Let me see what we've got. Looks like I should darken that some. Okay, where are you at? I am holding it. Did you ever have to do that? Hold on to the brush with one hand and start looking for it in your tray, and it's not there because it's in your hand. So I'm going to bring this darker light here. This needs separated a bit more from the lighter leg. The foot doesn't stand out from the leg here at this spot, so just trying to make sure there's a distinct edge. Make sure that it's got a fuzzy feel. Alright, so now we can see that the foot is distinctly separate from the little bit of leg that's shown in the light. Well, I think we may wrap that up today. If you like this video, please like. If you want to follow along for more, subscribe. Share with your friends of anybody that you think would enjoy painting along or just seeing the paintings come to life. And until next time, don't be hard on yourself, just keep painting.